Hey everyone, have you ever looked at the Nancy Drew game covers and you thought the game was going to go one way, but it actually went a completely other direction? Or maybe you saw a small detail on the game's cover that you had never noticed before. Guess what? This video is for you. I wanted to sit down and create kind of an analysis video where we go through every single Nancy Drew game cover and kind of break down and talk about if it relates to the game, or maybe how it doesn't relate to the game, and maybe see if we can find anything that we maybe never noticed before. Hey, what are we doing? Let's go ahead and jump right into the analysis video of all the Nancy Drew game covers. Let's go! Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right into our first analysis, which is the very first game that came out, Secrets Can Kill. This one's actually a bit of a toss-up because this game was discontinued in 2010 and it was also remastered, so there's kind of a few different covers to discuss. But we will go with the very first 1998 cover of Secrets Can Kill. I found this on Google. I believe this is the cover of the very first one. It definitely has a very classic vibe to it. Like, it feels very Nancy Drew classic, book kind of vibes. Her shadow and the magnifying glass. It definitely doesn't give you any kind of idea what the game is about. Nancy is in this very antique-y looking home and she's got a magnifying glass out, but that's very classic Nancy Drew vibes. If I had to guess, well, I honestly couldn't really guess. Maybe I would say that I thought maybe she would be investigating someone's antique house, because maybe something about, like, she finds an attic or something in this antique house and is going through all this, like, boxes of dusty things or something, and she finds some kind of secret. I don't know, that's kind of the vibe I get from it. Never would have thought this was at a high school at all. The title doesn't really tell you that that's what it's going to be towards at all, but it is. I love the title, Secrets Can Kill. It's very dramatic. I think it does have a very classic Nancy Drew vibe, but definitely doesn't give us any idea of what is going on. I assume this is Aunt Eloise's house. I've actually never played the original Secrets Can Kill. It looks like it to me. And I think they did a good job for the late 90s for making it look like what I would think Aunt Eloise's house looks like. You got that nice, antique clock that I would find at an antique store. I love it. And the stained glass lamp. It looks awesome. I think that they did a good job with what they could on this cover for the time being. So yeah, it's a pretty cool cover. So actually, if I'm correct, I believe that they redid her interactive website back in like 2008, and this was before they had discontinued their Secrets Can Kill game. So during that time when they were kind of revitalizing the website, they recreated the original cover to match more of the aesthetic of everything. So I believe this cover is the recreated cover for the original Secrets Can Kill that they came out with. So yeah, this one is a little bit more school vibe. It has a bookshelf, and that makes me think of a library. It makes me think of a school. So I think this is more in the right direction of what it's more about. I have no idea, like, I don't know who that's supposed to be behind the bookshelf, like, because it's obviously not the culprit. If you've played Secrets Can Kill, it's not the culprit, unless we're talking about the original. I have no idea who that is. Low-key kind of looks like Connie, but Connie looked mad in this cover, so I don't know. I don't know who that is. They definitely look mad. I mean, look at their eyebrows. They're like, they look mad. I'm trying to look at some of these book titles. Police Academy Regulations, The Clues, Terror in the Mist, Midnight of the Mind. These all sound like titles of Nancy Drew books. Are they? Oh no, they're not. These are misplaced. These all sound like, are these all crime books? Is that what that is? I think these are all crime books. Okay, so yeah, if these are all like investigation, mystery, crime books, I love that. Oh, what an awesome detail that they added, because that would be kind of, insinuating this is like an original mystery, the mystery of the mysteries, right? Even though this technically isn't what her interactive would later say. So technically, Secrets of the Old Clock, which was set in like the 30s, would technically be Nancy's first mystery. But this does have a very like, you know, classic mystery vibe, right? Like, I don't know. I like that little touch that they put in there. It's definitely something I think special. You know, they're not just books, they're a certain type of genre of books. So that's nice. So for the next cover for Secrets Can Kill, so this would be the last cover to talk about. They have what is the remastered cover. So this cover is definitely confusing. So now we know for sure that this is a story that is set in a high school. And that's nice. I do like that it gives very high school vibes because that's what the game is mostly centered around, is high school. But the confusion from the cover, because the game, okay, first of all, why is Connie the cover? Why is she the cover? It's almost like as if like that should have been Nancy, although there's always the spoof that we never get to see Nancy, which I understand, but it is weird. Maybe it would make more sense that Nancy be there, or maybe that could have been Jake, you know, because Jake was the one that was murdered, so he would be like the center while all the people in the back are the suspects, right? It's very odd that they chose Connie to be the cover. But also too, who is this girl in the background? Who is that? We never meet her. There's Hal. We don't know who that is. And and the football guy, the jock, I don't remember what his name was. But who's the girl? I guess maybe they added her because they needed like a group of 3. That just made more sense. But then why not put Connie back there? I don't know. I just feel like it would have made more sense to have Jake as on the cover and the 3 high school suspects in the back. I feel like that would have made more sense. Also, Daryl is nowhere to be found in this cover. I guess he's working. I don't know. Maybe he's at the diner. Also, too, I would like to point out that the floor appears to be wet. I don't know if was there a leak. Like it's because it's all like reflective, like ripples or something like that. Like something is leaking. Maybe the bathroom got flooded. Once cleaned it up. I don't know. That's so odd to me. Maybe the boiler room just, you know, I don't know what's going on. I am confused with this cover. I don't know. I guess that's the Secrets Can Kill remastered cover. I don't know. Hey, let me know. Which cover is your favorite in the comments? We've got many more covers to cover. Anyways, let's keep going. Okay, so this next game I believe also had a original cover, and I found this one on Google as well. It looks very dated. Like you can tell that this is a very dated cover for the second game, Stay Tuned for Danger. But it does kind of give you a little bit more picture, you know? It shows you all the cast of characters except for one. It definitely shows you the range of what they were trying to go for. They're like, hey, look at all these characters that we've created that are in a 3D model, you know? They're just kind of trying to advertise, look at the difference between the first game that we came out with and the second game we came out with. But again, it doesn't really show you a whole lot of what it's going to be about. Maybe the back of the game cover did. It's definitely not a very interesting cover. And I can see why, when they redid the website, they kind of recreated the cover for that game. So this next one is the cover that they redid. And I don't know what it is about it, but it looks so good. I mean, this is such a well done cover. You can obviously tell that this is a set, and it kind of tells you what the game is about for sure. And I love the lighting on it. It's so bright and mysterious. But yeah, no, this is that set that we kind of get to explore, and that's cool. I really enjoyed the cover that they redid when they recreated their website. It looks very, very good, and I am assuming that the shadowy character is definitely the culprit from that game. So I think it was a good job. I think they did a very good job at recreating the cover for Stay Tuned for Danger. Okay, so we have finally made it to I think the very first game where they kept the cover the same. So there was no redrawing of this game cover. This is the original game cover and it has stayed. It is, to me, a very just incredible game cover. It is imposing, but I will say it's a little misleading. I don't think the mansion from the game is as imposing as this cover is. They probably worked on the cover art before they actually knew what the actual mansion would look like in the game. In the game, it is a lot more flat, and we don't really get to see a whole lot of the outside space. We see just one little cover image of the mansion, and it's all kind of in black and white because it's storming. So yeah, it doesn't really look the same, and it looks a lot more broken down in the cover. We see like pillars are totally snapped in half, and there's boards on windows. It doesn't look as bad like that in the game. Also, they made it look like on the cover that you were gonna have to kind of walk up these like, you know, rocky hill with broken stairs to get to the mansion. It's so much more dramatic in the cover than it is in the game. And also, there is no really tower at all in the game. So that is completely different as far as like the location. So yeah, the mapping out of the location, not the same at all. But also there's a window in the tower and there is some kind of shadowed figure. So, who could that be? I guess that is supposed to be the ghost of the mansion. That the mansion is supposed to be haunted. I don't know. I mean, the game, I will say, from the looks of Message in a Haunted Mansion, I would assume that maybe this is a Victorian style mansion that is really rumored to be haunted, whereas I feel like the game kind of took that a different direction. This was more like Rose and Abby bought this place, and there have been no actual, weird things before. Like, the house was not sold with the intention of that this is a haunted place. No, they just bought this place. They're going to turn into a, bed and breakfast. But Abby is the one that is creating these hauntings. So I think those are kind of two different things. Like, it would be kind of a different story if maybe like Nancy was brought into this mansion that has been passed on and on and on from family to family, and they keep leaving because it's haunted or something, and she's trying to find out what's going on. I don't know. But that does feel a lot more like Scooby-Doo. So I see why maybe they took it the other way. But yeah, no, it looks very exciting. Like, I think this is probably the first cover that if I saw this versus the other two games, I probably would have picked this one up, because this one is the one that is much more attractive as far as mystery goes. Like, ooh, a big haunted mansion, yeah, I definitely want that, versus a movie set or a high school. And especially because those game covers, you can't even tell what they were about, just based on the original concept of the cover. You don't even really know what it's about. I mean, yeah, you can read the back and find out what it's about, but just basing off the art of the covers, this one is way, way, way more exciting. So I definitely like this cover. It's just got a classic cover from the classic era of Nancy Drew games. So, and this one's good. All right, so moving on to Treasure in the Royal Tower. Oh, this is such a classic one. Just right off the bat, something I noticed is I absolutely love the purple of the cover. I think that was such a great detail to add because of the purple flower, Marie Antoinette, and that color, the color purple is a sense of royalty. So it really just off the bat automatically is setting the tone for what this game is going to be. The castle looks very grand, and I love that they made sure that you feel cold looking at the cover art, because they've added these wisps of snow and everything's covered in snow. It's great. It is exactly how you feel from the game when you play. So that's a nice touch. I don't know why there's a medallion on the snow. Like, I don't know, why is that there? I don't know. And also too, I will say this is probably something that's in every Nancy Drew game cover. There seems to be like the actual location of the game, the way that the floor plan is laid out is not really the same of how it's designed. So we definitely don't get this entrance of Iron Gate, long big doors with stained glass windows. It's a tower. We don't get that when we walk in. I don't think that's the same. So it's set up a little bit different from the cover. Also there's a person in the stained glass window. Who is that? Okay, well I don't know who that is. That's gotta be Sunny June. That's the only explanation. Sunny June's everywhere. Anyways though, I do absolutely love this cover. I think they did a phenomenal job. It tells you just enough about like, oh, we're gonna be entering into a castle, there's a treasure. Maybe that's why they added the medallion about treasure. I don't know. They make you feel cold, the purple, the royalty. It's grand, it's great. It's just what you feel when you play the game. So this cover, awesome job. Okay, so the final scene. This one, I think they did really good with the actual like detail work. So if we zoom in, look at the walls. The walls are like cracked, they're kind of molded. It definitely gives a vibe of a very like antique old theater, but this theater was obviously grand in its day. Like I feel that from looking at this cover, because they did such great detail work on just the arches and the molding. They really did a great job at making it feel like this is a grand theater, but also doing a good job of conveying to the person looking at the art that this is a rundown theater. There's obviously someone in the top box. I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? I don't know. But with a flashlight, I don't think you can see who it is if you zoom in. Can you? Can you see? It looks like the Hardy Boy. Who's that Hardy Boy? It looks like Frank Hardy. No, that's not who it is, but it looks like that. I don't know who that is. Why are they shining a flashlight? The lights are already on. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, someone with a flashlight in an already lit room is shining a light, I guess, at Nancy. I don't know. So that part doesn't really make sense. But the rest looks awesome. It definitely gives you a vibe of where you're going with this game, and I love that. And I love the red. This is a cool cover too, even though I don't know who that is. It's obviously Sunny June again. No other explanation. Sunny June is the answer to everything. So it's gotta be Sunny June. That's the only answer. That is the only answer to everything that happens in the Nancy Drew universe. Alright, so yeah, let's move on to our very next game. Alright, The Secret of the Scarlet Hand. Ooh, this one's definitely bold, I think. That's the very first word that comes to mind, bold, because we're seeing this huge red handprint right across the cover. So, love that detail. And we don't even know what that is going to mean, and I love that we don't know what that's going to mean. We just know if there's somehow some way the Scarlet Hand will play an effect into the game. So I like that, and I love that they chose the monolith, the garden, as the background. It is such a nice touch because the ambience of that jungly, Secret of the Scarlet Hand walking through the garden is such a good environment and location and feeling. So I love that that's what they chose as the background of the cover, because you definitely get a very greenery vibe to this game. I don't know how else to explain that, but we haven't had that in other past games. So this game, you definitely feel like, oh, there's going to be a lot of warmth, associated with Secret of the Scarlet Hand, whereas, we were in a cold location with Treasure in the Royal Tower. We were in a rainy location in Message in a Haunted Mansion, and we were in a old rundown theater in Final Scene. So this one is a lot warmer to me. I think this is probably one of the first warmer games, and I say that because the music is very upbeat, very warm. It is a different vibe, and I am receiving that from this cover. It's very good. I love that. So I also like that they did put this shadowy figure in the background. Like, ooh, who's that gonna be? You know, I think they tended to do that with a lot of the cover recreations with their games, because this one is very nice. I love this cover. It looks amazing. Don't really know that it's maybe in a museum, but I can definitely tell that it has some ancient ruin type of temple vibes just based on the structural piece. It kind of looks like that's a museum, but I don't think I would maybe 100% know that from just looking at the cover. But definitely the hand, wanting to know more about the location and the culprit, it does intrigue me. It makes me want to pick it up and kind of look at it. So I do like this cover. I think it's a great cover. It makes sense. It looks good. It's appealing. So yeah, I love this cover. Okay, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. Off the bat, I'm scared. It's a very scary looking cover. I think I would argue that this is probably the most obvious game cover. You can immediately, just based on the title and the art, you know what this is. These are Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. There is a lake, there's a moon, there's the dogs. They look ghostly with the, I guess, what is that, like steam and fog and ghost-like eyes. I don't know, glowing eyes. You get what this game is about already. I like that we are already kind of know just a little bit of what the mystery is about, so we're not kind of left confused. That looks really good. And other than that, you know, we've got the cabin and the dock with the boat, and we have this forest. It's very, it is very bright because of the moon, but at the same time, it's very dark. Like, you get the sense of, I am in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Just forest. It's foggy. We're on a lake. It gives you chills. It's kind of terrifying. So, I also think this is probably one of the better covers that we've seen in the last few that we've analyzed. I think this one's a really good cover. It definitely gives you the message and the vibe that it's trying to give you, and also because that's kind of where the game goes. You know, this is where the game is intending to go. It's going to talk about these ghost dogs, but are they really ghost dogs? What's really going on at Moon Lake? I think this does a really good job of portraying those questions to you without having to read anything at all. So this is a very good cover. I love this cover, and definitely sets the vibe for Moon Lake. Okay, so the Haunted Carousel. I think before we analyzed this one, I said that the previous one, that dog, Ghost Dogs Moon Lake, that was the most obvious cover. But I take it back. This one may have to be the most obvious cover from the game so far. Definitely know what it's about. Obviously, there's a carousel. It's haunted. Even though I've played the game already, I probably would have already assumed that if it's a haunted carousel, it must obviously work on its own. It must, you know, start spinning around and no one's controlling it. It's haunted. So I think that the message is clear. It's very obvious. I actually think that this one is very beautiful. I love the shininess and the bright lights that they've added to the cover art. The horse that is in the front is very, you know, shiny, and it looks really good. The design of the carousel itself is very beautiful. They definitely added a lot of work and really looked at pictures to replicate what is a carousel, what makes a carousel. Well, lots of lights, you know, that's what you see, a lot of lights and reflection in this cover. I think it looks really, really good. We don't really know a whole lot about what the story is about. We just know that the carousel's haunted. Why is it haunted? What makes it haunted? Why is this going on all of a sudden? So I think that those are questions that you get from the just, you know, looking at the actual cover. And if you kind of look in the background, you see that there's like this red orangey glow, almost as if like the sun is setting or something like that, and you can see part of the amusement park or the fair behind the carousel. I will say, unfortunately, in the game you don't really get to explore a whole lot of the amusement park. You get this map and you see these locations, but you never really get to dive into, you know, walking around and seeing what everything is. And that's unfortunate, because I would have loved to have seen more. To me, the Haunted Carousel feels a little bit lacking in its environment, since it's the game after the Ghost Dogs and Moon Lake. When you really look at the Ghost Dogs and Moon Lake, you're like, wow, you really felt like you were able to explore a forest. That forest maze is insanely long, and there is no like reloading or you hit a dead end. Like, you can go all the way from the end of the forest to all the way to where Red Knot is. That feels incredibly expansive. Whereas the Haunted Carousel lacked a little bit in that, because you could only really look at so much at the carousel. You could really only look so much at I think it's called the freeway games or whatever, where the arcade games are. You really can't like walk around the amusement park. So it was really much more jumping from one location and fast traveling from one location to the next location. So I think it lacked a lot in that. And so I think that the background of the cover kind of misleads you into thinking like you're going to be able to explore way more than just the carousel. You're going to be able to really go through this fair, and you really don't. But as far as the beauty of the cover art, I think they did a really great job. It's not one of my favorites, but I do think it is a beautiful cover. All right, so our next game, Danger on Deception Island. This is one of my personal favorites as a game. But as far as cover art goes, let's break it down. So we know that we are going to be on Deception Island, and this definitely looks like some kind of coast, some kind of island. I love the fog. They did a really good job with the fog. They definitely make it feel eerie. You can even see fog in the distance where the trees are, the evergreens are. I love the rocky, just hill, the mountainous part, and that there's a lighthouse tucked away. I love that that's a symbol, the lighthouse, and that you are going to be able to explore that later in the game. So I love that they included that. We see a whale, and we see someone kayaking in the background. They seem to be, I gotta zoom in on these things, you guys, because I gotta see closer. They are swimming towards the whale? Yeah, they're swimming towards the whale. So we see a kayaker swimming towards the whale. The whale is, swimming, but we don't really know what those things mean. Like, why is there someone in a kayak swimming towards the whale? Is that Nancy? Is that Katie Firestone? Who could be in the kayak? We don't know. I assume that maybe it's Nancy, but usually in these covers it tends to be the culprit, someone in the background, that's possibly maybe the culprit. And we don't really know what the whale is about. We just see this big giant whale. We really won't know until we get more into the game what the whale means, what the whale is all about. So just based on the cover art, we kind of get that eerie, foggy vibe of the game. That's definitely brought to our attention, but we don't really know what's the deal with the kayaker and what's the deal with the whale. How does that play into a mystery? Because just based on the cover, I would never know how in the world a whale would come into the Nancy Drew mystery. I would have absolutely no clue. It does make me want to know, but it's definitely not maybe the most intriguing cover that we've seen so far. It gives you all the highlights, I think, just the main points, like, hey, yeah, you're going to be on an island, it's going to be foggy, you're going to kayak, there's a whale, and there's a lighthouse. So it definitely hits those, like, high points of the game, things you remember. But there's so much more to this game than what's on the cover, I think. So there's a lot more to dig around inside of the game. So this cover's maybe not my favorite, but it's still a pretty good cover, I think, for what the game is. So I like it. It's not my favorite, but I do enjoy the vibes that it makes you feel when you look at it. Alright, so this one's a very favorited game in the community. This is The Secret of Shadow Ranch. Automatically, this cover is just, it's a stunning cover. Great art. I love the color choices they used in this game. Darkened sunset with an orangey glow makes me feel like I am in the reddish desert. They just did a good job of that, and I like how there's just a few little stars poking out in the sky. So I love that. I love the time of day that they used for this cover. evening time. I love that. And I love that they gave us a little bit of view of the farm. That's actually not exactly what it really looks like in the game, but it's pretty close. They kept like the horse pen area pretty to a T. I think that looks really good. I can't remember if there's a windmill in the game. There might be. I don't remember. But that building, that's the red building back there in the back, that is definitely in the game. I'm not sure if they intended the big building with the light on in the window, if that is supposed to be the house, or if maybe that's supposed to be a separate room, like maybe like a bedroom. That's kind of like, you know, that happens a lot of times on ranches. They'll have like buildings, separate buildings, and some are bedrooms and bathrooms, and then you can go into the main house where the kitchen is, the living space, and stuff like that. I don't know, because that looks a lot smaller in the cover art. And then, of course, the very main thing that we're supposed to be focused on, the horse, the phantom horse. This is based on the book. I mean, most of them all are, but this one I feel like is a very famous Nancy Drew book, and it gives me a lot of classic Nancy Drew vibes. It looks definitely like a classic cover to a Nancy Drew book, and I think they did a great job on the phantom horse. It's glowing. It looks like a white phantom horse. It's very what you would think of if you would think of a ghostly horse. So I think they nailed this cover art, truly. I mean, it makes me feel like I am in this, you know, rocky, deserty area, that it is hot, and that we are in a ranch. You know, it just makes me feel the things that I think it's supposed to make you feel. And I'm intrigued as well. I want to know more about this horse. You know, where is it coming from? Obviously, how do you make up a phantom horse if we're seeing it right here? You know what I mean? And later in the game, we actually do find out. But when I first remember seeing this cover, I definitely was like, how could they make that happen? How is a horse a phantom? You know, this is not just like something's haunted. Well, someone could be behind that. Or there's a ghost. Yeah, definitely someone could be behind that. But a horse, like, you can't dress up as a horse and make it look real. So, like, how does that happen? But they explain that in the game, and it does leave me with questions looking at the cover. But it looks really nice. It all comes together nicely, and it is a really great cover. I would totally pick that up off. If I saw that on the shelf, if I saw that cover on the shelf, I would certainly pick that up, thinking that was a very interesting looking mystery. So I think they nailed this cover art. Alright, so The Curse of Blackmore Manor, another really popular game in this series. So I feel like this cover art is actually really talked a lot about, like, as far as being completely opposite of what it, you know, is intended, I guess. Because we don't know who is the person in the cloak. Like, what I've heard before, that some people say that that's supposed to be like the lady in black, but the thing is that she's wearing red. So who is that? Or is that right? It was supposed to be the lady in black? I don't know. I have no idea. But we don't know who that is. And or that's supposed to be like Linda. Maybe that's what it was. That people had said that was supposed to be like Linda, like she is the wolf or whatever, you know, in the cloak. So yeah, I don't know. We don't know who that is, and I guess later when you play the game, that would be kind of confusing because it never really talks about who that is, or there's no one that looks like that in the game. So that's kind of different. Now, I will say that the actual front of Blackmore Manor does look like that. So this is the first time where the actual building kind of looks like what it's supposed to, because we do kind of get that front entrance, and we do have a pathway with a garden that we walk through at first. So that all does make sense. The only thing is that there is appearing to be some kind of wing to the right of the cover. That is totally not there in the game structurally. Actually, that would make more sense for that to be kind of the conservatory, but no, I guess not, because the conservatory, there's like stairs that go down to it. So yeah, I don't know, the actual building is not exactly, but at least the front door in that kind of pathway of a garden is pretty accurate to the game. So also there's bats flying around the manor, and I don't know. There is really no reason for there to be bats, I guess. Other than I feel like this was the first game that were really going for a scary feeling kind of to the game, and I guess that's where they were going with the cover art as well. You know, you've got this really like yellowy green foggy moon sky with bats, so a manor with gargoyles. So I mean, like, you know, I see they were trying to go with like a creepy, like, you know, manor type of feel, but it really doesn't make sense to the location, the actual location being the UK, with bats at night. It doesn't feel like that's normal. Maybe it is. I have no idea. So yeah, I don't know. The cover doesn't really match the game, and it really doesn't provoke a lot of emotion either. Where, for example, with Shadow Ranch, I definitely feel inclined to want to know about the Phantom Horse. With Treasure in the Royal Tower, I feel cold. It feels grand and royal. I want to explore the castle. This doesn't really give me a whole lot of feeling. It just looks like a cover. So I think as far as covers go, this is also, again, not one of my favorites, because it just doesn't give me enough detail to want to know like what's going on. Like, what is, I mean, yes, that's Blackmore Manor, and yes, it's talking about there's a curse that you can get at Blackmore Manor, but like what is the yeah, I mean, I don't know, it just doesn't give me enough pull, I guess. Like, maybe if there was some kind of creature, like how there is like the wolf or something like that, maybe that would be a little bit more enticing, but this one doesn't just give you enough to feel like, oh yes, like that is what I want to know more, right? But also too, like, the cover art is actually not as beautiful to me as some of the other cover art has been. Like, I feel like Shadow Ranch and Danger on Deception Island and Treasure in the Royal Tower, Message in a Haunted Mansion was much more dramatic and grand, whereas this one is a little bit more flat. It's a very, very typical looking garden, and the manor isn't too imposing. It looks like a normal manor. The only thing that would really intrigue you is that why are there bats? And that there's a lady in a cloak, and who is it? What does that mean? Other than that, there's really not much to this cover. So not one of my favorites. I feel like it could have been much more enticing. So yeah, that's The Curse of Blackmore Manor. Alright, so The Secret of the Old Clock. So this is another classic Nancy Drew book, and this is definitely a vibe they were going for when creating this game. They wanted it to be a classic. With that being said, they insinuated that this was Nancy's first mystery. This is a mystery that's set in the 1930s, and what an interesting thing to do for a game, to set it in an old time period. And when looking at this cover, you definitely get that vibe. I love that it is set up how it would be in the 20s and the 30s. You get that vibe. You can see there's an old car. The buildings are kind of, old-timey, and it just, I love that that's, you can tell that we are going to be investigating into this small town, and I love that. They have a really nice antique clock face that is on the cover. Don't really know why it's broken in 4 parts. Maybe that was just a creative aspect they wanted to include, or maybe it's because Josiah Crowley basically gave so many clocks to people. I don't know why that's like that. I don't know. And there's also a lady crossing the road. I'm gonna have to zoom in on that. Okay, don't know who that is, but if that's Mrs. Sheldon, she has no room to comment on Nancy's dress. Also too, about this cover, there is lightning flashing from the sky. I have absolutely no idea why that is on this cover. I feel like that makes no sense to the game at all. I don't know. I don't know if that was supposed to make it seem like it was more mysterious. But it never rains in the game. Yeah, maybe that was just something they wanted to add, but it really doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really go. Anyways, this is a very I would try to argue maybe this is more of a plain, it's a plainer cover than other covers that we've analyzed, but it kind of has to be because of what it is. I mean, we're talking about more simple times where we don't have as much technology, you know, everything is becoming more developing. It is a very small town, it's supposed to be simple. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what the cover achieves and the game achieves, and so I think that makes it's a very sensible cover. It makes sense with what it's supposed to be. So it's definitely not one of my favorites, not the most exciting, but it does hit the marks of what it's supposed to do. So Secret of the Old Clock, classic, you did your job. So Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon is another really favorited game, and I think the cover is really exciting because this is something they never have done before in a cover, but they actually hid the number 13 all around in the cover. I'm not sure if this is all of them. I think there are about 5 number 13s in the rocks, in the trees, in the moon, obviously on the train, I believe in the steam as well. So they hid a lot of the number 13s in the cover, and that's really cool that they did that. The cover is definitely exciting. Obviously we are going on this adventure on a train through the mountains, through these canyons, and you get that vibe from the cover art. They designed a really grand train, and I love that they have all this like steam and fog coming out from around the mountains and the light from the moon. It really makes you feel like you're on top of a mountain, that you're going to explore more, and that's really exciting. I think they did a very fantastic job with this cover because it doesn't show you a whole lot of what you're about to uncover, but it shows you just enough to let you know, like, hey, you are going on this journey on this really cool train through the mountains. And I think that's such an exciting idea, covered very well through this cover. So excellent job with this one. I think it is also going to be one of my favorites. I think it looks really good and gets the message across for sure. Okay, so Danger by Design. This is the first game where we travel internationally, and it definitely, I think, has really good vibe to it. It's Paris set with a very nice sunset glow, and I love how they use this like background overlay of like a metallic-y fabric. That's very cool. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Danger on Deception Island, where they just kind of hit a lot of high points. Like they have the picture of the mask and they have the picture of the Mulan. So they were trying, and the dress, so they were trying to really hit like the high points, things you would, that are very memorable from the game. It doesn't really tell you, it kind of does. I mean, like, you do know, like, okay, we're going to be in Paris. It's definitely going to have to do with design and fashion, but it doesn't really give you a whole, picture maybe of what the danger is or anything like that. Like, we don't really know what the mystery itself will be. But I do like the elements that they've provided into the concept art. Like, it does give a very nice Frenchy vibe to it. I love the cityscape that they added at the bottom with the people, walking down the avenue. It's very nice. It comes together really nice, and I love that they chose a really bold red as the main color of the cover. It's very nice. And although we don't get to kind of, walk down the actual city of Paris, we do get to go to several different locations of Paris that kind of do make you feel like you're there. So, may not be one of my most favorite covers, but I do think they did a pretty good job with it, and with the items that they did include. And I love the centerpiece, which is the mask. That's a great centerpiece, in my opinion, for this cover, because that's such a statement that Manette made, but also a statement to have on the cover as well. So I think it's a pretty good job, Danger by Design's cover. Okay, so the Creature of Kapu Cave. This cover is very exciting. I would say that this is one that I would actually want to pick up off the shelf. Unfortunately, it doesn't really reflect how the game actually played out. I really love the color theme that they chose with the green and the jungle part of it. I think they chose a really good color, and I like the tiki vibe that they have going with the fire, you know, glowing in the mouth and the eyes. It's a great centerpiece to the cover, very interesting to look at, very intriguing. You want to know more, like, oh, we're gonna, you know, find a hidden tunnel into a volcano. I get those vibes from it. And obviously you've got the volcano in the corner and the Hardy Boys in the other corner, and so it's maybe a nice summary kind of this Hawaiian, you know, adventure and mystery, but it doesn't really, you know, give us a whole lot of input into the creature aspect of it. I remember when the trailer for the Creature of Kapu Cave played after the ending of Is It Danger by Design, and it almost made it seem like there was going to be actually like more of a, it was going to follow more of the road of the creature part aspect, like almost like a Bigfoot type of person, but we actually really don't see, like I always envisioned that maybe, you know, Nancy was going to actually maybe see like a shadowy thing in the forest or something, or, you know, going to see something a lot more like, you know, where Nancy would think that, oh my gosh, I actually saw the creature or something like that, but that actually never really happened. We get that opening scene, you know, where there's someone trashing Dr. Quigley's camp, but we never really hear anything else really more about the creature. People blame things on the creature, but there's nothing to really, you know, entice us or scare us with using the creature, which was kind of unfortunate. So for it to be called the Creature of Kapu Cave and there be no creature on the cover art, it's kind of misleading. I think they were really just trying, kind of like Danger by Design and Danger on Deception Island, just trying to hit like high points. Like, hey, this is the first, well, actually, no, this is the second, but hey, this is another mystery where the Hardy Boys are going to return in person. You're going to be able to explore, you know, the jungle and the volcano parts of Hawaii. So kind of odd as well, because the cover of this game looks a lot more intense than the actual game itself. The game itself is actually much more relaxing and slower paced than what the vibe gives from the cover. So I don't think the game really aligns a whole lot with the cover, in my opinion. I do love the color schemes that they used and the images, like the centerpiece and the image of the tiki in the jungle. I love that aspect, but it doesn't really align a whole lot with the game. Although I do think it is an intriguing cover. It does make me want to play it, but definitely not one of my favorite covers. So okay, so now on to the White Wolf of Icicle Creek. I think the cover for this one is immediately drawing you in. It is very cold. Immediately, that's what I think of. The last one that made me feel cold was actually Treasure in the Royal Tower. This one most certainly and definitely makes me feel cold. You see a lot of the snow and obviously the white wolf. So it definitely gives off cold vibes. I immediately notice the person in the background walking. We don't know who that is. It could be the culprit or the person that's causing all of the sabotage, right? And obviously we see Icicle Creek in the background, and that's actually pretty close to what the actual lodge ends up looking like in the game. So overall, I think just based on the main points of the cover and the overall image, I think it's a great job. I think they did a wonderful job at making it feel cold, creating a location. It all looks really well put together. And they actually followed through with the concept art, and they did replicate exactly what this wolf looks like and exactly what the lodge looks like. So it works well. They did a pretty good job. I wish I knew who this mysterious person was in the background. I assume it's the person causing the sabotaging. That's probably who it is. But yeah, overall, I love the blue hues in the picture. Everything feels very winter. So I think they did a really good job with this cover, and it actually makes sense with the mystery. So A+ for this cover. Oh, okay, so one of my favorites, Legend of the Crystal Skull. So this is a pretty exciting cover because we're getting a lot in just from looking at this one cover. Obviously, we're definitely going to be exploring some of the bayou. We definitely have those trees with the moss hanging at the top. Um, and you even get to see a little bit of the cemetery in the background, kind of clouded in the back. Very interesting. So we know we're going to be able to, look at graves and be in a cemetery. I love that they chose a nightscape that is nighttime, and it is always nighttime in this game. I love that they chose it like that, because that's rainy nighttime New Orleans is very picturesque. So I love that they chose that. Obviously, it just makes sense to put a giant crystal skull as the main piece of the cover. And so I love that. It makes sense. And there is, I guess, part of what would be Bruno's manor in the background. And so we actually kind of see a person in the background, and this is typical for Nancy Drew game covers. There's always going to be someone in the back. And it almost looks like it's like the caretaker of the manor, or maybe someone that tends to the graveyard. And unfortunately, no one with that character made it into the game, unless that's supposed to be Bruno Brulé. No one actually made it into the game with that storyline. It would have been really cool to actually have someone that was maybe like a kooky old man that took care of the graves, but that unfortunately was not a character in the game. We did see Renee, and Renee is probably supposed to be one of the more kookier characters in the game. But I think it would have been really, really cool to have a caretaker in addition to Renee as well. Like, Renee could have maybe focused more on the gardening, and the other character could have focused more on tending to the actual graves, cleaning them, making sure that no things grow on top of them. So that would have been a really interesting take, and the way that Nancy could meet this character would have been really cool. As she's walking down in the cemetery, it's raining, it's New Orleans, it's night, and all of a sudden she hears this lantern, kind of clashing behind her, and she turns around and it's the caretaker. That would have been really really interesting way to meet this person. So as far as the cover goes, I really think this is a great cover. It gives you the emotions that it's supposed to give you, and it conveys the message, like, this is going to be about a crystal skull, and it's a legend. We don't know if this is fact or fiction, but we will find out. So it's definitely hitting all of the spots it needs to hit. I love the vibes that it gives, that it's spooky, it's a manor, it's dark, it's rainy, it's misty. I love all of those vibes that it gives about New Orleans. So I think this cover is actually an excellent job. It gives you enough details about the story without ruining it. And it does a really well job. It's the Phantom of Venice. This one is a very colorful cover, and I love that they chose a lot of color for the cover of the Phantom of Venice. It's a very colorful city, and I like that. They definitely had a lot of sunset hues. You can see the sunset in the background, and it's got a lot of blues and pinks and oranges and yellows, and I love how they reflected those same colors onto the cityscape as well. I love that they included the gondolas, because it's definitely a highlight of the game that you get to ride the gondolas. It really makes you feel like you're in Italy. But of course, the bold centerpiece is the actual Phantom. And we kind of get a little bit of the picture of what this game may be heading into. That there's going to be someone in a mask and in a costume, a cloak, where they are dressed up as a phantom, and obviously are stealing items, artifacts, because he's holding this necklace, this green amulet, and it's just very telling. You know that obviously this is a criminal, because he's got this, almost evil-looking mask on with the, the eyebrows, and he's got this smirk on, and he's holding up a very valuable jeweled necklace. So we kind of know that, oh, okay, this is a criminal. He's stealing things. It's the Phantom of Venice. Maybe that's what he calls himself. So I think it really kind of tells you everything that you need to know, and providing a little bit of just the background of Italy to kind of give a beautiful, nice bow to everything that the cover gives. So nice bright colors. It's really intriguing. You're wondering, who is this man? What is this, cover about? And I think out of all the covers we've analyzed so far, I feel like this is the very first one where it's a person up close and personal with, the viewer. we haven't really had a person this close on the cover, you know, directly looking at us like this. So it's just a very bold cover, but I think it gets the message across, and I think it does a really great job. Nothing too confusing about this one. All right, so now we're talking about the Haunting of Castle Malloy's game cover and art. So this one I think is pretty, you know, explanatory that obviously there's going to be some kind of a haunting, you know, at this castle. We see this woman, and she is very ghostly looking, much more than what we maybe have ever received, like with Ghost Dogs and Moon Lake. There was a little bit of, you know, like wisps to them and stuff, but this one is very dramatic. Like, obviously this is she looks like a spirit, a ghost. And I'm not gonna lie, when this game first came out and they were advertising the cover and stuff, I was genuinely terrified because she is so scary looking. And she ended up really not looking exactly like that in the game. She had the general, like, just white flowing hair and, you know, long white dress, but it really didn't quite look exactly like that. I love that we've got the castle in the background, and I feel like I never noticed this before, but it is in the picture a broken castle. I don't think I ever noticed that before until now, because I remember being in the game and was like, oh, this castle's like been half of it's gone, but in the cover it is also half gone. So they already kind of knew that that's the direction they were going. But other than that, the background itself is a very dark cover and very sad, you know, blues and greens, but I think it was a very eerie tone they were going for, and I think they did a really good job of using a color palette for that. Also, I think you can in the background see the water crashing against the shore and the rocks, and maybe those 4 pillar stones that we have to rotate in the game. I think you can see that in the background as well. And you also get to see like the crow or the raven, whichever one it is. I think it's a crow. So it definitely gives you just a nice overall picture of kind of what we're about to get into. It's not really the most exciting of all the covers that we've seen. You know, it does make me kind of want to know, you know, a little bit more about the castle's history and what is this haunting, you know, who's this woman. I wouldn't say it's the most exciting, but I do think it's a lovely cover, and they did a good job of creating an atmosphere with the colors, and especially the centerpiece of the Fiona. Fiona obviously looks very haunted in this picture, or very ghostly, I mean. So it does get that across, that we are going to uncover some kind of ghost or something, and we do get to find out that story in the game. So it's not my favorite cover, but I do think it gets the job done and has some nice elements to it. Okay, so Ransom of the Seven Ships. This one looks so much more exciting, I feel like, than what it actually was. When I saw this game, I really thought, I was like, oh, no way, we're gonna get to, like, explore the ocean and pirates and buried treasure and things like that. And while the game does mention all of those things, it just missed the mark. And I think because it lacked a little bit of foundation, that is why it wasn't as exciting as it could have been. The cover, though, is absolutely beautiful. Even though it is misleading to what the actual game is like, the cover is stunning. It's a beautiful, broken, sunken ship, and there's, you know, fish swimming in and out. You've got, you know, the scary shark, and even the sunken treasure chest. So it definitely gives you an idea of what the game is about. You know, we are going to get to dive a little bit more into what the ship is, who it belonged to, and things like that. So it does kind of give you that. You can even notice the island in the background, and that's a nice touch, you know, to have that to make you feel like you're kind of alone, you're isolated, you're just diving in the middle of nowhere under the ship. It doesn't really tell you a whole lot about like the twists that it's gonna have, but that's okay, because it's good not to know those things from the cover. It's good to have just a basic understanding of what you're about to get into. And it is a mystery where you are uncovering, you know, a hidden treasure and a little bit of the past and the history and things like that. So I think it does a good job of that. I think the cover itself is stunning and gives off good vibes, very, you know, tropical vibes. I love, even if you pay attention just to the detail of, they have actual light rays beaming down from the top of the water down to the ocean floor. They've got just a shimmer of light on the ship. So it's, I mean, the concept art is phenomenal. They did a very good job on it. It's just that the game itself doesn't really align so much with the I guess the intensity of the cover art. You know, you believe that it's going to be way more adventurous just based on the cover art than what it actually is. I mean, I would have so seen this at the store, seen the cover and thought it was just, oh my gosh, this is going to be an exciting game. I would have totally picked it up, bought it, and unfortunately would not have lived up to the expectations of what the art actually looks like. So what I'm getting at is that even though it's beautiful, it just didn't match up with the game. So I can't bump it up to how I feel about some of these other game covers. Although it is stunning, it is just not all the way there for me. So I can't say it's up there with the rest of it, but it is beautiful work. Alright, so Warnings at Waverly Academy. This is another fantastic game. It's very well liked by fans. So let's break down what we're looking at here. So we definitely know this is an academy. So we know we're at a school, right? And it is a beautiful school, you know, designed in this picture. It has, you know, a nice red brick to it, stone. You're getting that this is a very, you know, what's the word? A very grand school, I guess. This is not just any school. This is a school with a legacy. You know, you can tell that it is a very prestigious school. And so yeah, the design of the school is wonderful. I love that they have a black cat at the bottom, but I especially love the main centerpiece, which is the Waverly Academy, you know, logo, and with their, you know, phrase at the bottom. But it's the detail of the cat scratch marks through the logo, and that it's torn. I think that is a wonderful touch to the centerpiece of the cover art, because nowhere in the title does it say, you know, Nancy drew, there's a black cat, you know, or anything like that. You know, there is no, you know, message about a black cat. Nothing. You would never know that that's what it's about just based on the art. So I love that they included that, because that makes you wonder, what is this about? Why is there a black cat at the bottom, but also why is it scratched through at the top? You want to know more. It's intriguing. So I think that is an awesome thing that they did. There's actually no complaints with this cover. It tells me a little bit about what it's about and leaves me with mystery. So it matches with the game. So I think this is probably one of their better covers that we've seen out of the bunch that we've reviewed. So excellent job on this cover. Definitely one of my favorites. So yeah, now we're moving on to Trail of the Twister. So with Trail of the Twister, it's pretty self-explanatory that this obviously talks about tornadoes. With the biggest, you know, obviously it's in the name, but with the biggest clue is the ginormous tornado on the front of the cover. I think it's very dramatic. You know, it pulls you in because it's this tornado and it's, you know, ripping apart this building and there's lightning. But you can obviously tell from the actual cover of the game that this is an interesting mystery. Because I remember when this game came out, I was like, how in the world is there going to be a mystery about a tornado? Or anything related to a tornado? And even reading on the cover saying, apprehend a saboteur stirring up turbulent trouble, it's like, but how does that relate to a tornado? So I would say if you just had to base this game just from the cover, judge this game just based on the cover, it is confusing. I think the cover is beautiful. It does have a very nice like sunset sky with this purple tornado pulling in. It does give you a look at this storm, and they did a good job of that. Other than that, the only thing I can see is that this obviously is the farmhouse down here in the corner of the picture, and we have the actual barn itself in the farmhouse, but we don't know what those other buildings are. We never see those in the game, so I don't know what that would be. I don't know if there was supposed to be more to it, or if there were supposed to be neighbors next door, but in the picture there was supposed to be. In the game there's not. So other than that, it's a pretty simple and self-explanatory cover, but it's definitely not the most exciting because there's nothing that sounds interesting about this game. It doesn't really quite connect with you as other games have in the past. When you look at things like Treasure in the Royal Tower, when you look at things like Message in a Haunted Mansion, even The Phantom of Venice, you feel a lot more of those classic Nancy Drew feelings of I'm going somewhere and I'm about to uncover something. This is a little bit more far-fetched, and you can tell that just from the cover alone. It is just not going to be the same mystery like other mysteries have in the past. So definitely this one's going to rank on my lower part. This is not a cover that I think deserves to be in the top half for sure. So Shadow at Water's Edge, there's really not a whole lot to say about this cover because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's terrifying. And that's awesome because it's supposed to be. So this is known to be one of Her Interactive's scariest games of the Nancy Drew game series. And the cover art really does that. There's this, shadowy, watery woman appearing out of the water. She's got all this vegetation all over her and these lily pads, and it is terrifying. She's ghostly, and we get that from the game. I'm scared of the game's cover because it's terrifying. And I think that's exactly what the cover was supposed to do. It was supposed to just go ahead and set the tone like, hey, this game is scary, because it is. And I love the garden in the background because that's about exactly what the garden looks like in the game. It's perfect to a T. It's got, the little bridge, and I don't really know what that thing is called in the water. It's like a little lantern type deal. And also the floral tree, all of it. It looks great because it's exactly how it looks in the game. So I love that. And the color choices that they used are just in one accord together work. And so I think they did a wonderful job creating this cover art to let you know, hey, this is going to be one of our scariest games yet. I think they chose a really great thing to be the centerpiece of the cover. So I think this is also one of their more excellent covers that they've done. It's wonderful. The Captive Curse. Okay, this game right here. I think they did a really awesome job of incorporating a lot of the town aspects of Captive Curse. Like at the bottom, we obviously see there's a lot of German architecture, and it looks a lot like the architecture that's in the game. So that's a wonderful job. And I like how they have all these like different images kind of, like a collage of images all together in one. We don't really get to explore, that much of a town. The town inside the castle area is a lot smaller. I see a lot more buildings in the background, but it's still very, very close to how it is in the game. There's obviously the castle in the background, which looks incredible. Looks very exciting. You want to know and explore more of that castle. It looks very ominous and mysterious. And then of course, I love the colorscape that they have on this cover. They have lots of green and lots of just earthy tones, and I think that was excellent, how they incorporated all these different colors together, especially because the colors of these buildings that they have in this architecture is very similar to actual buildings that are in Germany. So they did a really good job of that. Of course, we've got the main centerpiece, which is this hand holding this amulet, and it is obviously the main point of the cover, so we know that that's going to be important later in the game. there's nothing that alludes to what is this amulet for, what is it about. It just says the captive curse. So that's interesting. You know, we want to know, okay, well, what is the curse and who is the captive? You know, like what does that come from? You know, because we've got this hand holding this amulet. Well, what's that gonna do? This is not, you know, Nancy Drew and the missing amulet, or Nancy Drew and the amulet that curses you, or nothing like that, right? You know, this is just a hand holding some kind of necklace. And so we want to know what that's more about. But then Her Interactive decided, well, let's just take it a step further, and they put this girl, you know, close to the hand. She's in the wilderness by herself, you know. There's no one else running with her, so she's by herself, and she is running and holding on to that same necklace. So it kind of gives you a visual cue that somehow there is a woman running away, and she's holding on to the same necklace that we see in this hand, and the two are somehow connected, that this necklace is with this woman that's running away from something. She's looking back and she's running in a hurry. So that makes you want to know what is going on. They did not put any kind of design of the monster, but I feel like the reason why they did that was probably because they didn't know exactly how the monster was going to look, and they probably went through lots of renderings until they finally came to a conclusion of this is what the monster's going to look like. So I kind of understand why they didn't go that route. It would have been interesting to have a monster on there, but I see why maybe they didn't do that, because I feel like that's a really trickier thing you have to play around with, you know, is how will the monster look, because we can't make it too scary, but we can't make it look not, you know, imposing. So they probably took their time, you know, deciding how the monster was going to look. But I love the different images that they capture all at one time. It's very nice how they put it all together, and I love the colors. I think everything works really well together. It doesn't clue you into everything, but gives you just enough to want to know more. So I think this is also, again, another cover that they did a really, really excellent job on. All right, so this is Alibi in Ashes. Immediately, you definitely know, okay, we are at River Heights. We see the River Heights Town Hall, so we know we're in Nancy's home. And that's really cool that we get to see that. And we obviously see that Town Hall's on fire. So we know that Town Hall has caught on fire, or someone set it on fire, something like that, of that nature. And we know that Nancy Drew is a suspect and is obviously arrested, because we see a picture of her with her holding her sign. And so that, I think, was well done that they put that in the game. I love, too, that when they did include Nancy, they don't show her face. It's the first time that we get a cover of, you know, Nancy. Well, I mean, a picture of Nancy on the cover. That's the first time we see that. And I love that they always poked about it in the game. So I love that they poked about it on the actual cover, that they didn't show her face. And then we actually get to see George, Ned, and Bess in the background. I will say that looking at their images in the background, they don't really look like what they, you know, look like in the game. I probably would say that Bess looks the most like herself, a little bit different in the game, but George does not look anything like how she does in the game. I think they tried to keep it as similar as they could, but they don't look like what they look like in the game. In the cover, they look a lot different. And, you know, we've got, you know, two people watching the fire in the background, but just a very normal looking town. So, you know, I think that although this may not be, you know, the most exciting cover, you know, I think it offers a lot because we're at River Heights and because Nancy is arrested. And because we get all of that from just the cover, just the art of the game, I think it's very promising that the game is going to offer a lot as well, which it does. The game does offer a lot of excitement because you're getting to explore a little bit more into Nancy's life, but also it's the flip side, you know. Nancy is still solving a mystery, yes, but she's the one that's having to kind of be the suspect, you know, and that's, you know, what a great way to celebrate, you know, Her Interactive's 25th game. And I think that's why they you can tell that they took their time making and perfecting the craft that is Alibi in Ashes. So I love that they, you know, definitely were making town hall, and River Heights look like your typical American, town, and they succeeded that with this design. So I think this is also, again, another cover that they did really a really good job on. So Alibi and Ash's cover, they did really well. So this is Tomb of the Lost Queen, and I think what Her Interactive especially wanted to do was they wanted to incorporate as much, just the typical Egyptian things, that objects and things that you would think of. So they did include, the cobra snake and the little beetle on the coffin. They have included the amulet that Queen Nefertari is holding, and even they split it in half and showed the mummified version of Queen Nefertari. So it definitely, they're trying to incorporate all of the things you think of when you think of going to a tomb in Egypt, which I think is very enticing to a player. You definitely want to see something that is going to pull you in, and I think this does pull you in. I love the orangey golden glows that they have throughout the top of the cover, because it really shows like the glow of the torch and the gold that the Egyptian people maybe wore and saved as artifacts and amulets. So I love the colors and all of the things that they incorporated with the cover. And even at the bottom, they include the, desert scape, where they have the tents are set up and an entrance into the tomb, and it looks exactly like it does in the game. So there's no tricking, no fooling around. That is what the game looks like, and I enjoy that they have that in there just to give you a little bit of like, okay, what are you really going to be diving into? So it looks really cool. Again, though, this is a cover that I think kind of reminds me a bit of Trail of the Twister, because you almost have to wonder, okay, how much mystery is really involved? How much detective mystery can I do with Tomb of the Lost Queen? It's not. We're kind of going into more of things that are less classic Nancy Drew and more of, new Nancy Drew. So I think that's kind of what separates me a little bit from the cover, is that when I sit there and if I were to buy this, and I saw this in the store, I wouldn't really get the same connection I would with, say, again, some of the more classic Nancy Drew games like Secret of Shadow Ranch or Curse of Blackmore Manor, The Haunted Carousel. Those are much more like typical Nancy Drew mystery type feels, where this one, it seems to be just another trip that Nancy goes on, and she's just uncovering little things along the way. Not much more, so much more a mystery, but I think, so I feel a little bit of a disconnection from the cover because of that, because I can tell that this is just another, place that Nancy's traveling, but there's not like a classic mystery to solve. So it does disconnect with me from me in that way. But I do think the cover is really beautiful. I think that they used a lovely color palette for it, and they chose a lot of certain objects that are exactly maybe what you would think of if you thought of the Tomb of the Lost Queen or being in Egypt and uncovering a tomb. I think those are things that you would want to see or you would think of in your mind. So it does hit those spots, but definitely not one of my favorites. Doesn't look very exciting. So that's Tomb of the Lost Queen. So next up we have the Deadly Device. This one is very intense. Obviously we see this man and he is being like electrocuted by all these bolts. We see that, and that immediately wants me, I want to know what is going on. Obviously the very short title that they have on the cover says an elusive killer shocks a high-tech lab. So we know that there is a killer. We know that this man is obviously he's murdered, and that alone is enough to sell me. That is a classic Nancy Drew feeling of a mystery. I want to know more. I need to know more. I love that we have a lab, that this is set in a lab. That's a setting that we haven't had before. It doesn't feel like we're repeating the same like story of Nancy just traveling to a place and she's uncovering little things. No, this is a mystery. Nancy's being called in to solve a mystery, a murder, which we hadn't had since the first game. So it's intense, it's thrilling, just getting those vibes from the cover. And I love the hues of blue, of like the electricity and lightning and bolts. That was, I think, a really good choice to use blue. So, and that's actually exactly what his character design looks like. It's just like that. So I think they also succeeded really well with this cover. It does exactly what it should do. You want to know more. The fact that you're seeing this man get electrocuted, you're like, oh my goodness, it's called the deadly device. Obviously, there's some device that was built that ended up being what killed this man. So you want to know more. So I think they did a really good job with the deadly device cover. So with the Ghost of Thornton Hall, I don't even really know if I have to say more. I think this is another cover that they just phenomenally created. Obviously, we're going to be somewhere in the south because there's some mossy trees that we see, and we know, kind of just based on the background, that the location is going to be somewhere with some kind of, plantation style house. So we know it's in the south. And, I think it's interesting to have a ghost and it's in a cemetery in the background. That makes you want to know more. And it's very eerie and spooky. This lady is kind of spooky because, she's got this just, I guess from crying, just makeup running, and she's a ghost, obviously, you can tell. And so you just want to know more about, well, what's going on at this, this house, this manor, down deep in the south. You want to know, and you see the cemetery, and so you just know it's got this eerie glow and mist and fog everywhere. Everything is very darkened and pale, so maybe things are very old and run down. You want to investigate and know more about the Ghost of Thornton Hall. So it's very fascinating how just those small elements in a picture will just draw you right in. But I definitely, I think they did an awesome job. And again, they nailed this cover art for sure. They did an excellent job on pulling you in. So Ghost of Thornton Hall, excellent. Okay, so The Silent Spy. So this definitely has a very exciting cover because we're seeing a masked individual, and we already know who the individual is because it says Kate Drew. So we know it's her. We see her on like a zip line in the background and in the moonlight, and obviously we know that she is some kind of spy maybe. That's just picking up details from the title and how she looks. And we kind of see a little bit of the background of where we're going to be at. You can actually see the flag of the place hung up on the building, so you already know kind of where you're going to be, what's kind of the plot. So I think they do a good job of kind of giving you a little bit of information about what we're about to get into. And it is exciting because you want to know more about Nancy's life and her mom, and was she a spy? Is this what this is meaning? Like, what does that mean? So I think they did some really good elements of that. It's not maybe the colors to me aren't the most exciting as we've seen in the past, but it gets the job done. And I think they included everything they needed to include on this cover. So it's, again, maybe not one of my favorites, but I think it does do well. I wouldn't maybe rank it as low as some of the other ones that we've seen, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. But The Silent Spy, they still, as most have they've done on most covers, they did an excellent job. So the Shattered Medallion. There's so much to unpack about this cover because personally to me, I think this cover is extremely busy. My eyes don't really know where to focus, and not in a good way. Like, I feel like if it was an exciting cover, I would be looking at everything all at one time and just taking it all in and all. This one feels busy to me. Right off the bat, I notice a lot of the people in the background, and when you look at it, you can see a lot of the main characters. Like get to see Patrick, and you see George, and you see Bess, and you see Kira, but you also see some people that were not featured in the game. There's a lot of, I assume that would to be the other contestants, but it's strange to me because it's just not, it just doesn't hit what it's supposed to hit. I think, there's the title and it says that you're going to be on a reality show, and that sounds good and all, but it just didn't work for this game. And again, just knowing ahead of time based on the cover and the cover art that we're going to be on a reality show makes me feel, again, like what some of these other cover arts have made me feel. This is not a classic mystery. This is not something I see Nancy Drew doing. This is just a story. This is just her traveling somewhere. It's just another filler game. Those are the things that make me feel when I see this. It would not make me want to buy it. So that's kind of the unfortunate downside to the cover. I think they tried their best to make this seem like it was going to be an exciting game, because we've got George hanging on from a bridge, and we have, which I don't know who this is in the corner. It looks like that's Bess, maybe, and in the machine. I don't know if that's supposed to be Nancy. She's got pigtails. I don't think it is, but Nancy's the only one that uses it. So, and it like looking for artifacts down on the ground. And then of course just the big centerpiece, which is the Shattered Medallion, and then Sunny June. The Shattered Medallion, just that in general, at first, if we were just gonna put aside that it's on a reality show, if we were just going to talk about the fact the Shattered Medallion, that title, you almost would think that would be like, oh, we're searching for all these, pieces to this medallion that's going to unlock something. It's some kind of mystery, but that is nowhere near what it was about at all. So the cover just really just doesn't do it for me. I would argue that this is my least favorite cover out of nearly all the covers that we've analyzed so far. It's just too busy. There are just too many colors and too many things going on. It tells me nothing about the mystery, and it just doesn't work. So unfortunately, Shattered Medallion, if I was ranking all of this, it was most certainly going to go at the bottom. Most certainly going to go at the bottom. I wish that it would have been more of a classic feel mystery. Although maybe there are some elements where the concept art is, stunning, like the nature part of it. That's just not what we're looking for this mystery game. So this cover definitely ranks at the lowest for me. So Labyrinth of Lies, I think, is a very colorful cover and not too busy like Shattered Medallion was. They definitely, her interactive team included a lot of elements of Greek culture, and they did that purposefully. So obviously we have the stone statue and the stone museum in the background with the pillars and the architecture that's very Greek, but and then of course it's kind of a juxtaposition of both sides of the cover. We've got a really nice happy bright cover on this side, but we also have the underworld on the other side, the dark scary part on the other side. One side is flowers and nature and happy, and the other side is lava and evil and just red and fire and just all the things. There's just such a stark contrast between both sides, and I think that's exactly what they were going for with this picture. Greek mythology has a lot of analyzing with, when you're analyzing literature, Greek mythology has a lot of juxtaposition between good and evil and both sides, and so I actually think the cover is a lot deeper than just the surface of it. And so for that reason, I think the cover does an excellent job of, because with covers and pictures and things like that, our brains are already thinking and associating things without even having to really analyze and think about them. We visually analyze things and think things without even having to try to think those things. So just seeing this cover, I already see the good versus evil and the, both the happy and the bad sides, and seeing what may come about in this game. We're going to talk about something that looks maybe good on the surface, but actually there's more to it, right? There's some lies coming from the suspects in the game itself, which is really what ended up happening, because we find out that almost all of the people we met, well, none of them can be trusted because they were all kind of a part of this scheme together. So there was lies all throughout. What was appearing to be all flowers and nature on the outside was actually much more deeper on the inside. So analytically, the cover speaks a lot of volume. Not the most exciting cover for a game, and definitely not telling of what the mystery will be. I will say that this is a game that was in an era where there was a lot of games coming out where it was just like not classic Nancy Drew mysteries, and this game is not, I wouldn't rank it with the classic mysteries, but I wouldn't rank it with the other covers that we've talked about and the other mysteries where we've talked about where Nancy's just traveling to another place and then solving other little mysteries. No, I feel like this more ranks in the middle. It's a little bit of a classic mystery, but it's also a little bit of kind of her just traveling to another place, to another filler game to say that she went to this place, that she studied this culture, and with the games, that's what I vibe from the game. But it's just more in the middle. So I would say the more classic part of it, you kind of get from her, she is uncovering, more of the mystery behind the museum and the artifacts and what's going on, but she doesn't really, she is kind of, it just feels a lot more like those newer Nancy Drew games, not more classic. So the cover itself, not very telling of what we're about to get into, but definitely has a lot more of a deeper meaning, which I think that's maybe what raises it up a little bit in the bar. So not one of my favorites. I do think it's a beautiful cover, and it probably ranks on the lower half for me, but it's definitely not as low as some of the other games that we've seen in the past few. The Sea of Darkness is the last Her Interactive game of its era of games that were all made with the same style before we enter into a completely new era of games. And this cover art maybe makes it a little bit more special in that sense, that it's going to kind of continue and mimic and be the last game that we get. The cover, first of all, is beautiful. It has a lot of blue hues. I love the sky. I love the northern lights that we see in the sky. And we get this beautiful grand ship in this icy cold water. So it's very lovely display of colors, and the centerpiece is very imposing, and I love that. We even get to see a little bit of the town, and that's actually what the town looks like, so that's cool. That is what we get from the game. It's called Sea of Darkness, and so I love that. Picturing that in my mind, I picture being in the middle of the sea, and it is just completely dark, and you hear the crashing of the waves, but you can literally not see ahead of you into anything, and that is exactly what the game was. It was so dark, and when you were out there and you could hear that water, you're just staring into this dark abyss, into nothing. You have no idea what's out there. You're getting a little bit of a glow from the northern lights, which reflects on the ice that's there, but you have no idea what's out there. So that was actually a very picturesque. In my mind, I could totally feel the cold. I could feel the darkness and being in the abyss of the darkness, and it was good. I get that from the cover as well. All these blues and the darkness. I get it. We have absolutely no idea what the mystery is about. That's probably the vaguest cover we've seen. It just says, set a course for danger and discovery. Sea of Darkness, Nancy Drew. So probably because it was their last game and there were so many things happening behind the scenes that we didn't know about. Probably why the cover gives us no clue about what's going to happen, just on the art itself. But it gives me enough, I think, to want to know more, because I just see the beauty in the cover. I want to know more, like, where is this ship going, and what is why are we out in the sea, or are we getting to explore this small town? What's going on? I see a lighthouse in the background, the northern lights. It's cold. You just want to know more about what journey is Nancy about to go on. So I think the cover does its job. It's very beautiful. I wouldn't say it's not my favorite, but I do think it does rank at least in my top half, because it is a beautiful cover and just stunning the elements that are on the cover itself. So Sea of Darkness, I do think it's pretty good. All right, so we are in our very last cover to analyze, Midnight in Salem. This is definitely a completely different era of Nancy Drew games. I think what I will say about the cover is that it is a lot cleaner than past designs of covers. There's not as much stuff just pasted all over the cover. It is a lot cleaner in that sense if we're looking at it from a graphic point of view. First of all, I think I just noticed the face that's in the silhouette of Nancy. We obviously know that this is going to be in a period of time of Salem because of the way that she's dressed with the bonnet and the high neck collar and the frills, and so we know it's kind of, that period of time, like colonial time. We see that there is some kind of house, and there's like kind of fire, abrupt out of it. So we know that there is something with a house that caught on fire. And we see a lot of graves and cemeteries, and some kind of crow or raven in the background as well. So I think that they tried to keep a very similar vibe from past games with just the kind of the way the art flows. And we kind of get a little bit of a gist of what it's going to be. I think that Midnight in Salem, we get it. We know that this is in Salem, and we get kind of the vibes of where it's going to go, that there's some kind of ghostly figure. I will say it doesn't really show a whole lot of what the game is going to be. There is maybe one time where Nancy is spooked by this ghostly thing, but it is all very in the air. It's not very as firm as maybe has been in other games, because this ghost is, I don't know, she's not getting called in to solve a mystery about a ghost, but it's something that's completely different from the game. So we're really focusing more on arson and legal issues than we are anything. So the game itself doesn't really look as exciting from just based on the cover. I would say looks like it's going to be more scary, but in reality it was not scary at all. And also too, I think the cover is very misleading, because the art itself looks a lot more put together than the actual game's graphics. When you look at the later covers in the Nancy Drew period, the games and graphics and the concept art actually matched the game's graphics in the game, whereas this one, I don't think it did. The concept art of the cover looks a lot better than what the actual game did. So I think that's a little misleading, but this is definitely not a game that looks exciting so to pick up and look at, and it definitely lacks that classic Nancy Drew feel. This is just another new Nancy Drew era of game. So for that reason, because it doesn't give me those same exciting vibes that the other past games have given me, it probably would rank in my lower half, but most definitely does not rank as low as things like Shattered Medallion or Ransom of the Seven Ships. I actually think the cover is a lot more put together than that, and gives enough, spooky vibes that I would pick that one over the other two for sure. So I think the cover, they did a pretty good job for, I guess their first Nancy Drew game while they're still trying to figure out these waters of new technology. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the best, or not my favorite, and definitely not my top half. So that's my analysis or view on Midnight in Salem, the Nancy Drew cover. Alright everyone, and that was our Nancy Drew game cover analysis video. It was so fun to sit down and look at very fine-tuned details of these game covers and see things that I've never seen before, and just talk about how these game covers make me feel in relation to the actual gameplay experience. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Comment below and let me know, what's your favorite cover? what was not your favorite cover? I would love to know. I love interacting with you guys, meeting you guys. It's so much fun, and I just love this community. It is so fun to meet you guys. Let me know if you have any other video ideas. I always write them down on my list and I try to get them done. But thank you for subscribing, and I will hopefully see you again for another video sometime soon. Thanks.